McLaren have shocked the sport by breaking cover with their 2025 car far earlier than expected. At a shakedown day at Silverstone yesterday, the team displayed their 2025 car with a shocking number of changes. Considering this is the last year of the current technical regulations, expectations for innovation were pretty low, but McLaren have rebuilt their car from the skeleton out, and the changes on show are obvious. Today, I'll check out the first car revealed for the 2025 season, how the reigning world champions have revolutionized, and what to expect from the team this season, so don't go anywhere. In 2024, McLaren developed their way to a first constructors' title since 1998. They upset Red Bull and held off Ferrari to prove themselves as the best team on the grid, but it was far from easy. The championship was still on the line at the final race of the season, but they held off the charging Scuderia to secure the title. In 2025, though, the challenge will be no easier. As the current regulations have gone on, the competition has become closer and more intense, and as 2025 begins, the battle between Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren will be incredible. However, since the 1st of January, the teams have been allowed to develop their 2026 cars, which will be a challenging clean slate design, which might invite some teams not to overspend resources on their cars for this season. A lot of the off-season speculation has been about who would play it conservative with their 2025 car to try and focus on 2026, and who would spend big on 2025, hoping to catch their complacent competitors off guard. McLaren are definitely one of the latter. As the team first unveiled its 2025 car on a rainy filming day at Silverstone, sporting a temporary camo livery ahead of F1's big season launch in London next week, McLaren revealed that they have been very much focused on 2025. The MCL39 appears to have been completely overhauled from the very bones of the chassis to the finest of aerodynamic details. The obvious changes to the side pods will be the first thing that catches fans' eyes. The inlet has changed from a letterbox design to something more akin to Mercedes' P-shaped inlet from last year, incorporating a vertical and horizontal element. With the change to the inlet comes some changes to the geometries of the side pods themselves, and no doubt changes to the cooling apparatus underneath. The other eye-catching change is to the cannons that sit over the side pods. They've shrunk in size, hugging much closer to the car than previously, again a consequence of changes to the engine cooling beneath. Side pod changes are always the first thing that the fans see because they are so large and obvious, but the actual effect on car performance can be pretty minimal. Aerodynamic surfaces are also the easiest parts of the car to hide changes on. All the photos provided by McLaren from the shakedown will have been carefully curated to hide anything they want to keep secret, and most of the photos are from a distance, making it hard to see smaller changes. You can tell that McLaren aren't showing everything at this shakedown though by the front and rear wing, which appear to be almost identical to last season's, despite the fact that all the aero surfaces behind the front wing have changed. To optimize the entire aero package, the front wing needs to be changed to work with what is happening behind it, and the fact it appears to be an older model highlights the fact there may be a lot McLaren aren't revealing. Something that is much harder to hide is changes to the chassis structure. The alterations can be far less obvious to the casual observer, but for car performance, they are far more important than the shape of the side pods. On the MCL39, there are some huge changes to the suspension that could be an indicator that McLaren have found a promising development direction. The front suspension has been changed to give it a stronger anti-dive characteristic. This means that when the driver applies the brake, the front of the car won't dive toward the track as much. At the back end, which was pretty well hidden in the photos released, there are suspension changes on show again. Here, McLaren have moved their wishbones to add more anti-lift to the rear end, stopping the back of the car from lifting so much when the brakes are applied. The combination of the two will make the car stay more level when braking, creating a really stable platform. This is something that Red Bull identified as vital to the ground effect regulations very early on, and it is part of the reason they dominated in the first couple of years of the current rules cycle. By keeping the car as level as possible throughout braking and turning, you keep the flow below the car as stable as possible, which allows the ground effect floor and the Venturi tunnels that it uses to create downforce working as effectively as they can. It's exciting to see so much change so deep into a regulation cycle, but we'll have to wait until the first race of the season to see the real effect of these changes and how McLaren's MCL39 matches up to the competition. Team boss Andrea Stella says the team has made drastic changes to its winning formula to stay ahead of the game. What we try to achieve with this new car is innovative. It's a car in which we try to raise the bar in many areas, including the fundamental layout, Stella promised at the launch event at Silverstone. His mention of changes to the fundamental layout being a clear nod to the repackaged cooling system and suspension changes I've already spoken about. It's something that definitely we evaluated carefully because the MCL38 was already a competitive car, so we needed to be conscious, considerate as to how much we wanted to innovate. But ultimately, we actually went for a relatively challenging approach in terms of how much innovation is in this car. This is predominantly to gain aerodynamic efficiency. At the same time, we still wanted to make some improvements in terms of interaction with the tires and what you can do to improve long-run pace. Pretty much every fundamental component of the layout has been subject to some innovation in order to gain, sometimes not only by marginal gains, some technical opportunities for development. Everything has been subject to optimization, sometimes incrementally, sometimes actually quite substantially. As is often the case with these pre-season car reveals, it is a lot of talk without saying a huge amount. The overarching theme of Stella's comments, though, is that McLaren aren't going to turn away from 2025 in the hope of gaining some advantage in 2026. They have invested, they have made big changes, and they have given themselves the opportunity to aggressively develop this car if they need to. Before I talk more about what has forced the raft of changes to the McLaren car, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the news and analysis in the lead up to the 2025 F1 season, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So while McLaren could have sat back in 2025, made minimal changes, and invested in the 2026 regulations instead, they were actually forced into changes by the FIA. The sport's governing body confirmed in January that it will introduce new load tests for both front and rear wings during the 2025 season to limit how much the parts are able to flex. The static deflection tests that monitor rear wings on the cars will be expanded for the season opener in Australia on the 14th to the 16th of March, before additional front wing tests are introduced at the 9th round in Spain at the start of June. McLaren were widely considered to have successfully exploited the leniency of the rules in regard to wing flexing last season, with their DRS flap flexing at Baku a particular highlight of their work to create some incredible rule-bending bodywork. While the team won't have to make wholesale changes to their materials to pass the new tests at the start of the season, they will have to make changes for the Spanish Grand Prix. We don't have to make many adjustments at all for the start of the season. There will be a small adjustment required from race 9. I know it's become a big talking point, but in terms of what makes us busy and what gives us headaches, actually there are completely different topics which have much more to do with gaining those tenths of a second you refer to that I might have made look simple. The FIA said in January that the changes to the testing of flexible bodywork were designed to ensure that bodywork flexibility is no longer a point of contention for the 2025 season. As always though, if there is a way to bend those rules, the teams will find it. And at McLaren, they've already proven they are experts when it comes to bending stuff. What do you think of the changes to McLaren's car for 2025? Are you expecting them to challenge for the title again this season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, then make sure to check out our merch store at f1reverse.com to get yourself some sweet F1-inspired apparel. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.